Ryan Gosling had always cherished those rare moments when he could blend into the crowd unnoticed. Despite his fame, he valued the simplicity of everyday life. That crisp morning, as he pulled into the supermarket parking lot wearing a simple gray hoodie and faded jeans, everything appeared ordinary. Shopping carts rattling, people juggling grocery lists, and parents guiding their restless children. It should have been just another mundane errand on an otherwise busy day, but fate had different plans. Not far from the main entrance, tucked away behind a column, sat a homeless man named Alvin, draped in a threadbare coat that had seen better days. His graying hair was matted with dirt, and his weathered face bore the marks of countless nights spent on cold concrete. Next to him lay his loyal dog, a skinny, spotted creature whose eyes, though weary, held an alertness born of hardship. A battered cardboard sign rested against his knees, reading, "Please help me and my friend." Occasionally, a kind soul would drop a coin or a crumpled bill into the coffee cup at his feet, yet most passers-by hurried on, lost in their own busy worlds. Ryan closed his car door gently, his eyes scanning the busy lot until they landed on Alvin. Perhaps it was the man's slumped posture or the dog's cautious gaze that stirred something within him. He contemplated stepping forward with a few dollars or a kind word, but he hesitated, unwilling to draw attention in the crowded lot. Instead, he decided to enter the store, intending to pick up extra groceries to discreetly leave behind as a small act of kindness on his way out. Just as Ryan neared the automatic doors, a thunderous roar shattered the calm. A motorcycle engine revved so loudly that it drew every eye. The biker, clad in a leather jacket with a dusty bandana wrapped around his neck, cut the engine abruptly and dismounted with a menacing swagger. His shaved head and scowling expression, coupled with heavy boots clacking against the concrete, exuded raw aggression. Ryan watched as the biker advanced steadily toward Alvin and his dog. Even from a distance, Ryan sensed the building storm of tension. The homeless man caught sight of the biker just a heartbeat too late. The dog immediately growled low and uncertain, while Alvin clutched his cardboard sign, his knuckles whitening. "Some old bum with his mangy mutt having a picnic on the pavement?" the biker sneered, his voice thick with contempt. The remark cut deep, and the dog's low growl deepened as it positioned itself protectively between Alvin and the biker's imposing boots. Ryan's heart pounded as he scanned the scene, silently pleading for someone else to step in. But the onlookers, eyes averted, remained silent. With resolve building in his chest, Ryan stepped forward, his voice ringing out sharply. "Get away from him!" His words sliced through the tension, drawing startled glances from those nearby. As he emerged fully from the shadows, his familiar face under the hoodie became unmistakable, and whispers of his name passed through the crowd. The biker turned, his gaze flickering with surprise as he recognized Ryan. "Isn't this something?" he spat with a bitter laugh. "Ryan Gosling, right here in the parking lot. Didn't expect a celebrity cameo today." Ryan's expression remained calm, yet resolute. "I'm not here for a cameo," he said firmly. "I'm here to ask you to leave Alvin and his dog alone." A small circle of onlookers began to form as the tension escalated. The biker, his eyes dark with fury, stepped closer, sneering. "What are you going to do? Offer me an autograph in exchange for walking away?" he taunted, clearly enjoying the confrontation. But Ryan's eyes never wavered. He simply repeated, "I'm asking you to stop this now." The air seemed to thicken with impending conflict. The security guard, summoned by a bystander's shout, appeared uncertainly, his hand gripping the radio. Yet, before the guard could assert any authority, the biker advanced further, his intent unmistakably hostile. In a heartbeat, the biker raised his foot, feinting as if to kick the dog. The dog recoiled, its hackles rising as a desperate bark escaped its throat, while Alvin's voice trembled. "You're scaring my dog." That was all the signal Ryan needed. With adrenaline surging, he lunged forward and grabbed the biker's raised arm. For a split second, their struggle was a blur of clenched fists and defiant resistance. The biker twisted to break free, and a few onlookers gasped as the confrontation intensified. Then, amidst shouts and the echo of revving engines, a woman's cry pierced the air. "Police are on their way!" The announcement sent a ripple through the crowd, and the biker's eyes briefly filled with panic. Realizing the tide was turning, the biker's defiant stance wavered. He muttered insults under his breath as he reluctantly retreated, mounting his motorcycle and speeding off, leaving behind a heavy silence. The security guard moved in, checking on Alvin, who was now sitting shakily with his loyal dog pressed close to him. Ryan knelt beside them, his voice gentle. "Are you okay?" Alvin, his eyes glistening with unshed tears, managed a faint, grateful smile. As the flashing lights of police vehicles bathed the parking lot in red and blue, Ryan's steady presence reassured Alvin. He helped the homeless man and his dog settle as officers took their statements. The chaos of the confrontation slowly ebbed away, leaving behind a sense of fragile hope. Ryan, though exhausted, knew that this moment, born from an ordinary day, had transformed into something far greater. In that fleeting, pivotal instant, he had chosen to stand up for the vulnerable, rewriting a story of despair into one of courage and compassion. After the confrontation, the supermarket parking lot slowly settled into an uneasy calm. The angry rev of the motorcycle had faded into the distance, and the flashing red and blue lights of approaching police cars bathed the cracked asphalt in intermittent bursts. Ryan Gosling stood amidst the dissipating crowd, his heart still pounding, but his expression resolute. Around him, murmurs of relief mixed with lingering shock as the security guard guided a visibly shaken Alvin and his dog toward the arriving officers. The once chaotic scene now resembled a fragile tableau of aftermath, where every movement spoke of lives forever altered by one moment of decisive intervention. Inside a nearby police vehicle, an officer took down Alvin's statement with gentle care. Alvin's voice, quavering yet determined, recounted every detail of the confrontation: the threatening posture of the biker, the desperate growls of his dog, and the courage of a man who had stepped in without hesitation. Ryan listened intently as Alvin explained how the biker had attempted to escalate the situation, how his loyal dog had whimpered in protest, and how Ryan's firm, unwavering words had forced the aggressor to retreat. Even as the officer scribbled notes, Ryan's eyes met Alvin's with quiet empathy. He knew that these words were not just about an isolated act of violence, they were a testament to a system that had long overlooked the vulnerable. Meanwhile, a cluster of onlookers, still lingering near the edge of the parking lot, began to disperse slowly, their whispered conversations echoing a mix of gratitude and disbelief. Some had recorded the entire incident on their phones, and within minutes, news of the confrontation began to ripple through social media. Messages of praise for Ryan's decisive action quickly circulated, while others expressed deep concern for Alvin and his loyal companion. The atmosphere was charged with a sense of urgency, a collective realization that even in the midst of urban indifference, a single act of bravery could inspire change. As the police escorted Alvin into a patrol car, Ryan remained behind to offer additional support. He knelt beside Alvin once more, checking for any signs of injury that might have been hidden amidst the chaos. "Are you sure you're okay?" he asked softly, his tone both comforting and resolute. Alvin managed a small, grateful smile, his eyes reflecting a mixture of relief and lingering fear. "I'm all right. Thanks to you," he murmured, his voice rough with emotion. The dog, now calmer, nuzzled its owner's side, seeking reassurance. Ryan then turned his attention to the security guard, whose expression wavered between relief and residual anxiety. "You did well today," Ryan said quietly, offering a nod of approval that conveyed solidarity without fanfare. The guard simply mumbled a thank you before returning to his duties, his earlier apprehension replaced by a cautious hope that perhaps things might be different from now on. With the immediate danger subsided, Ryan took a moment to check his phone for any new messages. There were already notifications of the incident going viral. While part of him was aware of the public's reaction, his primary focus was now on Alvin. He helped the homeless man into his own car, ensuring that he and his dog would not be left alone in the uncertain chill of the night. As Ryan drove them away from the scene, the city lights blurred past, a moving canvas of hope and despair intermingled. Along the route, he spoke in a low, soothing tone, asking Alvin about his life, his struggles, and what had brought him to that moment in the parking lot. Alvin, his voice still shaky, recounted a series of misfortunes: a lost job, a sudden eviction, and the relentless grind of survival on the streets. Ryan listened intently, each word deepening his resolve to help not just for one night, but for the long haul. They arrived at a modest community center that specialized in providing shelter and support for those in need. The building, though unassuming, exuded warmth. Its lobby was filled with soft light, and volunteers greeted newcomers with gentle smiles. Ryan introduced Alvin to a kind-faced coordinator, explaining briefly what had transpired. The coordinator's eyes widened with concern as he listened to Alvin's account. "We'll get you settled," he assured, guiding Alvin and his dog to a private area where temporary accommodation and a hot meal awaited. Ryan stayed a while longer, watching as Alvin was helped into a small guest room and as his dog received a thorough checkup from an on-call veterinarian who had been contacted immediately after the incident. As he observed the scene, Ryan felt a sense of quiet fulfillment. This was the kind of change he believed in, small acts that could build up to a better future. Later, in a quiet corner of the community center, Ryan sat with Alvin, sharing a simple cup of coffee as they talked about the importance of community, respect, and second chances. Alvin's eyes, once filled with resignation, now shone with a glimmer of hope as Ryan recounted stories of others who had turned their lives around with a little help from unexpected allies. As the hours passed, Ryan made several calls, coordinating with local shelters and animal rescue groups to ensure that Alvin's dog would receive any additional care it might need. He explained that the bond between Alvin and his dog was vital, that neither should be forced to face the harsh realities of the streets alone. In response, a volunteer from an animal rescue organization assured him that provisions were already being made to offer not only medical treatment for the dog, but also a more permanent shelter for Alvin. The day wore on, and the buzz of the initial incident began to settle into a steady murmur of hope and recovery. Ryan periodically checked in with Alvin by phone, ensuring that he was adapting to his temporary refuge. Every time he spoke with Alvin, he was reminded of the fragility of life and the immense power of compassion. As evening approached, Ryan drove by the community center one last time, watching through the tinted windows as Alvin and his dog shared a quiet meal with the volunteers. It was a simple scene, a testament to human resilience and the transformative power of caring for one another. Ryan's thoughts turned inward as he made his way home, reflecting on the chain of events that had begun with a simple errand. That day, he had chosen to act when most would have looked away, and in doing so he had helped to rewrite the narrative for Alvin and his loyal friend. Though the world was full of shadows, Ryan believed that every act of kindness, no matter how small, could spark a light in the darkness. As his car merged onto the highway, the fading glow of the city lights accompanied him on his journey, each flickering beacon a reminder that hope was never truly lost. In the quiet moments that followed, Ryan resolved to continue his efforts, both on and off the screen, to advocate for those who were overlooked, to listen to the silent stories, and to stand up for the vulnerable whenever the call came. That day had transformed not only Alvin's life but had also reaffirmed his own commitment to compassion, and as the night enveloped the city, he drove onward, determined that his next act of kindness might just be the spark that ignites a broader change in a world that so desperately needs it. In the weeks that followed that fateful night, a quiet revolution began to transform not only the lives of those directly involved, but also the fabric of the community itself. As dawn broke over Los Angeles, the first light spilling over the horizon seemed to whisper promises of new beginnings. Ryan Gosling continued to check in on Alvin and his dog, now affectionately nicknamed Lucky by the volunteers at the community center. Every visit brought small improvements, better meals, warm blankets, and the gradual return of hope in Alvin's tired eyes. Ryan's phone buzzed constantly with messages of gratitude and offers of support from local organizations and kind-hearted citizens who had seen the viral video of his intervention. The incident had sparked a broader conversation about homelessness, vulnerability, and the power of compassionate action, and it was now clear that change was no longer a distant ideal, but a tangible, unfolding reality. At the community center, Alvin slowly began to rebuild his life. Social workers helped him navigate paperwork for temporary housing, and job placement programs introduced him to opportunities that, while modest, promised stability. His dog, Lucky, received regular veterinary checkups and the care needed to overcome his previous neglect. In quiet moments between counseling sessions and communal meals, Alvin would often look out the window, recalling that terrifying night with a mix of gratitude and lingering sadness. "I never thought someone would care enough to save us," he once told a volunteer, his voice thick with emotion. Each time, his words served as a solemn reminder of the price of indifference and the redemptive power of kindness. Ryan, too, was deeply affected. The night's events had stirred in him a renewed sense of purpose, reinforcing his belief that every small act of courage could change a life. He began dedicating more of his time offset to advocacy, joining forces with local charities and outreach programs that aim to support the homeless and protect vulnerable individuals. His calm, unassuming manner resonated with many, and soon he found himself invited to speak at community events and local schools about the importance of empathy, vigilance, and standing up for those who cannot defend themselves. In these gatherings, he shared his own experience from that night, urging others to look beyond appearances and to take action when faced with injustice. Back at the community center, a noticeable shift took hold. The staff, inspired by the courage displayed on that chilly parking lot, organized workshops and support groups where individuals like Alvin could share their stories in a safe, nurturing environment. The center's atmosphere, once marked by quiet desperation, began to fill with tentative laughter and genuine connections. Volunteers reached out not only with material support but with sincere conversations that affirmed every person's worth. Meanwhile, Ryan continued his personal visits, each encounter deepening the bonds that had formed among the center's residents. On one particularly crisp morning, as a gentle rain began to fall, Alvin and Lucky were celebrating a small victory, a new part-time job that promised regular income and a stable living arrangement. Ryan arrived to find Alvin beaming, the kind of smile that only comes from knowing one is finally seen and valued. In a reflective moment later that day, Ryan sat on a bench outside the center, watching as Alvin helped Lucky trot around a small garden newly planted by the volunteers. The droplets of rain seemed to wash away remnants of despair, leaving behind a quiet purity. He thought about the interconnectedness of lives, how one moment of courage could ripple outward, altering the course of many. The city, with its sprawling complexity and unyielding pace, had revealed a hidden truth that night, that the light of compassion, once ignited, could reach into the darkest corners and transform despair into hope. As the months passed, news of the incident continued to spark conversations. Local media highlighted not only Ryan's heroic intervention, but also the broader issues of homelessness and the need for community support. In turn, the community center received an outpouring of donations and volunteer applications, ensuring that more individuals like Alvin could find a path to recovery. Ryan's simple act had set in motion a cascade of goodwill, a testament to the fact that one person's willingness to act can indeed make a world of difference. On a quiet evening, as Ryan drove through the now familiar streets of Los Angeles, he recalled that chilly night in the supermarket parking lot. The memory of Alvin's trembling eyes and Lucky's cautious whine remained etched in his mind. Yet, amid that recollection was also the undeniable evidence of change. A homeless man with hope in his heart, a dog given a second chance at life, and a community united by compassion. Ryan smiled softly to himself, his resolve firm. He would continue to seek out those hidden stories and do his part to bring light into their darkness. And so, as the city lights shimmered against the backdrop of a new dawn, Ryan Gosling drove on, knowing that his journey was far from over. Each act of kindness, no matter how small, had the potential to change lives. In that belief lay the promise of a future where every person is seen, every life is cherished, and hope always finds a way to shine through even the darkest of nights.